The council room floated in space, a massive structure that held the fate of billions. Inside, 12 different alien species sat in a circle, their eyes fixed on the human standing in the center. Ambassador Choi Daeho stood straight, his uniform pressed and perfect, but his hands trembled slightly at his sides. He knew what was coming. The crystalline being at the head of the council spoke first. Its voice came out like music mixed with breaking glass. "We have made our decision. Humanity must leave." Captain Lee Taiyang, standing beside the ambassador, felt his jaw tighten. 200 years of peace. 200 years of trade and cooperation. All of it ending in this moment. The alien continued speaking. "Your species is too dangerous. You fight too easily. You expand too quickly. You refuse to follow our rules. The galaxy will be safer without you." Dr. Park Minji stepped forward. She had spent her entire life studying alien cultures, learning their languages, trying to build bridges between species. "Please," she said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "Give us another chance. We can change. We can be better." "No," another alien said, this one covered in scales that shifted colors as it spoke. "You have had many chances. Every time you choose violence. Every time you take what you want instead of asking. This is your nature." "We cannot change nature." Ambassador Choi raised his hand. The council fell silent. "You make a mistake," he said quietly. "You think our desire for peace means we are weak. You think because we negotiate we cannot fight. But we have fought before. We fought to reach the stars. We fought to survive on dead worlds. We fought each other until we learned to be one people. Do not mistake our hope for weakness." The crystalline leader's body flashed with light. "Is that a threat, human?" "No," Choi said. "It is a warning. But you will not hear it. You have already decided, correct? You have 30 days to leave all colonies beyond your home system. After that, our fleets will force you out. If you resist, we will destroy your ships. This is final." The meeting ended. The humans walked back to their ship in silence. Admiral Han Ji-woo met them at the airlock. She was a warrior, her face marked with scars from old battles. "So?" she asked. "We leave," Captain Lee said. "All of us. Back to Earth." The next 30 days moved like a nightmare. On every human colony, families packed their belongings. Children cried, not understanding why they had to leave their homes. Farmers watched alien ships land to claim their fields. Teachers locked their classroom doors for the last time. The ships came one after another. Generation ships that had been built for exploration were now loaded with refugees. The Phoenix carried 2 million people. The Hope another million. The names of the ships seemed cruel now. What hope was there in running? What would rise from these ashes? Captain Lee Taeyang commanded the last diplomatic vessel to leave. He stood on the bridge watching the colony of New Haven shrink behind them. His daughter had been born there. He had planted trees in the park with his own hands. Now aliens walked those streets, erasing every sign that humans had ever existed. "Sir," his first officer said, "all ships have crossed into Sol system. We're the last one." Lee nodded. He looked at the empty space ahead. Home. Earth. The planet they had left behind to explore the stars. Now it was a prison. "Send the message. Tell Earth we're coming back." "Tell them we lost everything." The officer hesitated. "Sir, what should I say?" "How do we explain this?" "Tell them the truth. The galaxy cast us out." On the bridge, Dr. Park Minji stood looking at a screen showing the quarantine zone. The aliens had built a wall of satellites around the entire Sol system, weapons pointed inward, keeping humanity trapped like animals in a cage. "They're afraid of us," she said softly. Captain Lee came to stand beside her. "Yes." "Good," she said, and there was something cold in her voice that he had never heard before. "Fear is better than pity." The fleet arrived at Earth weeks later. The planet glowed blue and white below them, beautiful and lonely. Admiral Han Ji-woo gathered the military commanders in a secure meeting room. "This is not over," she said. The other officers looked at her with tired eyes. They had just finished the longest retreat in human history. "Admiral," one of them said, "what else can we do? They have more ships than we can count. More weapons. More everything," Han interrupted. "I know, but we have something they don't have." "What?" "Time. They think we're beaten. They think we'll stay here in our cage and forget about the stars. They're wrong." She pulled up a star map. "We start a project. Secret. Hidden deep in the outer system where their satellites can't see. We build, we research, we prepare. Prepare for what?" Captain Lee asked. Han smiled, but it was not a kind smile. For the day we return. That could take 100 years, another officer said. Maybe more. Then it takes 100 years. My children will continue the work. Their children after them. However long it takes, we will go back. And when we do, we won't be asking for permission. In the Kuiper Belt, far from Earth and far from the watchful eyes of the alien satellites, construction began. The project had no official name at first. Workers simply called it the Plan. Later, someone started calling it Project Prometheus. The name stuck. Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. Prometheus, who was punished but never broken. The work was hard and slow. Everything had to be hidden. Every ship that went to the outer system had to look like a mining vessel or a research station. Slowly, piece by piece, humanity began to build something new in the darkness between the stars. Ambassador Choi Daeho retired from politics. He moved to a small house by the ocean and watched the sunset every evening. His wife found him there one night staring at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" She asked. "New Haven," he said. "The trees I planted. I wonder if they're still there. The aliens probably cut them down." "Probably." He was quiet for a long moment. "I told them. I warned them not to mistake our hope for weakness. They didn't listen. Maybe they should have," Choi nodded slowly. "Maybe they should have." Above Earth, Admiral Han Jiwoo looked at the construction reports from the outer system. Progress was slow but steady. She would not live to see the return. Neither would her children. But her grandchildren might, or their children after them. She thought about the Alien Council, sitting comfortable in their stations, believing humanity was contained and controlled. They had made humanity small, pushed them back into a corner. They thought this made them safe. They were wrong. You don't make a dangerous animal safe by putting it in a cage. You just make it angry. You give it time to think, time to plan, time to remember. Captain Lee Taeyang made a personal log that night. He spoke quietly into the recorder. "This is Captain Lee Taeyang, last commanding officer of the Diplomatic Corps. Today, we completed the retreat. Humanity is back in Sol System. The galaxy has cast us out. They think this is an ending. They're wrong. This is a beginning. We will remember this, and we will return. Not as refugees, not as beggars asking for a place among the stars. When we return, it will be as something they never expected, something they should have feared from the beginning. We will return as fire. This I promise. This I swear." He turned off the recorder and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, aliens celebrated their victory over the dangerous humans. Let them celebrate. Let them grow comfortable. Let them forget that humans never truly forget. The exile had begun. But so had something else. Something that would burn brighter than any sun. 200 years passed like water through fingers. The galaxy forgot about humanity, locked away in their small corner of space. The aliens moved on to other concerns, other problems. The quarantined satellites continued their watch, but no one really looked at them anymore. Inside Sol System, everything had changed. Director Kang Sua walked through the weapons facility deep inside a hollowed asteroid. The rock had once been just another piece of ice and stone. Now it housed laboratories and testing grounds that stretched for kilometers. "Show me the new plasma cannon," she said to the engineer beside her. Engineer Yoon Hyun pulled up a display on his tablet. "We've increased the temperature output by 40%. The beam can now cut through 3 meters of reinforced hull in under 2 seconds. Kang studied the numbers. The aliens build ships with maximum 1 meter of armor. "This is good." "There's more," Yoon said, excitement in his voice. "We've completed the Phoenix-class warship design. Each ship is built around its weapon systems. The aliens think of weapons as tools. We think of them as the entire purpose. How many can we build? With current production? 3,000 in the next 5 years, Kang smiled. 3,000 warships that no alien had ever imagined possible. Begin construction. Hide them in the outer belt where the satellites can't see. On Europa, beneath the ice, General Kim Nari watched her soldiers train. These were not the soldiers of old Earth. These men and women had been born in space, raised with one purpose. They moved through combat drills with perfect precision. Each wore powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any natural human. "Again," Nari called out. The soldiers reset and ran through the exercise once more. She watched a young Lieutenant Bae Jun as he led his squad. The boy was good. Better than good. He had never seen an alien, never walked on a planet under open sky. He knew only the training halls and the stories of exile. Those stories had made him hard and sharp, like a blade forged in cold fire. After the drill, Nari called Bai to her office. "You did well today," she said. "Thank you, General. Tell me, Lieutenant, why do we train so hard?" Bai didn't hesitate. "For the day we return to the stars. And what will we do when we return?" "Take back what was stolen from us." Nari nodded. This was good. This was what humanity needed. "You will lead a fighter squadron when that day comes. I've reviewed your pilot scores. You're the best we have." Pride flashed across Bai's face, but he controlled it. "I won't disappoint you, General." Deep in the research stations of Mars, Dr. Shin Junho worked on the final problem. Quantum jump technology. The aliens controlled all the jump gates in the galaxy. Those gates allowed instant travel between stars. Without them, you had to travel the slow way, taking years or decades to reach another system. The gates were the key to galactic power, but Shin had found another way. "We don't need their gates," he explained to his research team. "We can create our own quantum displacement field. The ship generates a bubble and moves through a different dimension. We appear anywhere we want without using their infrastructure." "Does it work?" one of his assistants asked. Shin pulled up the test results. "We've successfully jumped a probe ship from Mars to Neptune. Instant travel. No gate required." The room erupted in cheers. This changed everything. With quantum drives, humanity could move through the galaxy freely. They could appear without warning. The aliens wouldn't know where to expect them. Engineer Yoon Hyun brought the Phoenix-class design to Director Kang. The hologram showed a ship that looked nothing like alien vessels. Where alien ships were elegant and curved, the Phoenix was angular and brutal. Every surface bristled with weapons. The nose held the main plasma cannon. The sides had missile ports. The rear had defensive turrets. It was beautiful in its deadly efficiency. "The aliens build exploration ships with weapons attached," Yoon explained. "We built a weapon that travels through space." Kang walked around the hologram. "How fast?" "With Dr. Shin's quantum drive. Faster than anything in the galaxy. We can jump in, destroy our targets, and jump out before they organize a response." Perfect. On Earth, the oldest humans gathered for a ceremony. Park Minji was now over 200 years old, kept alive by advanced medical technology. Her mind was still sharp. She stood before the military academy graduation, leaning on a cane, and spoke to the young soldiers. "My generation saw the exile," she said, her voice amplified across the hall. "We saw the aliens take our worlds and cast us out. We came back here to Earth with nothing but shame and anger. But we didn't waste that anger. We forged it into something stronger. You are that something. You are the ones who will return." The graduates stood at attention, hundreds of them, the best humanity had produced. They listened as the old woman continued. "The aliens thought they were punishing us. They thought isolation would make us weak. They were wrong. Isolation made us focused. It gave us time to build without interference. While they grew comfortable and soft, we became hard. We became ready." Baijun stood in the front row. He felt the words sink into his chest like fire. His whole life had been building to this moment. Every training session, every simulation, every sacrifice. "The aliens said we were too violent, too aggressive, too dangerous for their civilized galaxy," Park Minji said. "They were right to fear us. But they made one mistake. They let us live. They gave us time. And now that time is ending. You will be the fire that burns away their comfortable lies. You will show them what humanity becomes when pushed to the edge." In the outer belt, the first Phoenix-class warship completed construction. The shipyard workers gathered to watch as it powered up for the first time. The running lights came on, painting the darkness with red and gold. Someone whispered, "It looks like fire in the dark." The name spread. The Phoenix Fleet. Ships rising from the ashes of humanity's defeat. Admiral Han Minjae, great-granddaughter of the original Admiral Han Jiwoo, reviewed the fleet status. 3,000 ships ready, 200,000 fighters, 5 million soldiers trained and equipped, the quantum drives tested and functional, the weapon systems beyond anything the aliens possessed. She called a meeting of the command staff. Directors, generals, engineers, scientists, the people who had spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. "The time has come," she said simply. "We launch in 1 week." The room was silent. Then Director Kang spoke. "Target? New Haven, the first colony we lost. The most symbolic. We take it back first." General Kim Nari nodded. My soldiers are ready. All ships are ready, Engineer Yoon Hyun added. Dr. Shin Junho checked his calculations one more time. The quantum drives will get us there without using their gates. They won't see us coming until we're already in orbit. Admiral Han looked around the room at the faces of humanity's finest. Our ancestors swore we would return. Not as refugees. Not as beggars. We return as fire. As vengeance. As justice. The galaxy cast us out. We will show them what they created. Launch day arrived. The Phoenix fleet gathered in the darkness beyond Neptune, where the alien satellites couldn't detect them. 3,000 warships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and human rage. The crews boarded their vessels. Fighter pilots like Bei Jun climbed into their cockpits. Soldiers checked their armor and weapons. Director Kang watched from the command station as the fleet powered up, 3,000 stars being born in the cold darkness. Engineer Yoon Hyun stood beside her. They're beautiful, he said. They're necessary, Kang replied. The countdown began. 10 seconds, 9, 8. Park Minji, watching from Earth, whispered to herself. Come home, children. Take back what was stolen. 3, 2, 1. The Phoenix fleet engaged their quantum drives. Reality twisted around them. Space folded, and 3,000 human warships disappeared from Sol system, reappearing 200 light-years away in orbit around New Haven. The aliens never saw them coming. The exile was over. The return had begun. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Han Min-jae gave the order that humanity had waited 200 years to hear. All ships, begin the attack. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. When you cage humanity, you don't make them weak. You make them ready. And when they break free, they burn everything in their path. The Phoenix fleet opened fire and the sky above New Haven turned to flame. The Veltharian defense fleet never had a chance. One moment, the orbital space around New Haven was peaceful. The next moment, 300 human warships appeared from nowhere, their weapons already hot and ready. Fleet Admiral Lee Jun stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display. He was the great-great-grandson of Captain Lee Taeyang, the man who had sworn humanity would return. Target their military installations first, he ordered. Broadcast evacuation warnings to civilian areas. The Phoenix fleet opened fire. Plasma beams cut through alien ships like they were made of paper. The Veltharian vessels tried to return fire, but their weapons barely scratched the human shields. These aliens had spent 2 centuries in peace. Their ships were built for ceremony and show. The human ships were built for one thing only. War Lieutenant Bei Jun flew his fighter through the chaos. His squadron moved like a school of fish, perfectly synchronized. They had trained for this their entire lives. The alien fighters tried to intercept them, but they were too slow, too predictable. Bei's targeting computer locked onto an enemy vessel. He pressed the trigger. This is for the exile, he whispered. The alien ship exploded into fragments. Commander Seo Hana led the ground assault. 50,000 soldiers in powered armor dropped from orbit, burning through the atmosphere like meteors. They landed in the military district of New Haven's capital city. The Veltharian soldiers tried to form defensive lines, but they crumbled under the human assault. SEO moved through the streets, her armor's sensors tracking enemy positions. A group of aliens opened fire from a building. Their weapons bounced off her shields. She returned fire with her plasma rifle. The building's wall exploded inward. Her soldiers moved through the gap, securing the position in seconds. Minimize civilian casualties, she reminded her troops over the comm. Military targets only. This is a liberation, not a massacre. In the sky above, Admiral Lee Jun watched the battle unfold. 30 minutes. That's all it took to destroy the entire Veltharian defense fleet. Not one human ship was lost. The aliens had grown soft during the centuries of peace. Humanity had spent those same centuries becoming sharp. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding we cease fire immediately. Lee smiled coldly. Open a channel. Let me talk to them. The council chambers appeared on his screen. The same crystalline leader who had exiled humanity 200 years ago stared at him with what might have been shock. What is the meaning of this attack? It demanded. You declared us unfit for your galaxy, Lee said calmly. You stole our worlds and erased our legacy. We are here to take back what is ours. This is not a request. This is a declaration. You violate every law of civilized space. Your laws never applied to us. You cast us out, remember? We are not part of your civilization. We are something else now. Something you created when you pushed us into the dark. We will destroy you. You can try. Lee cut the transmission. He turned to his tactical officer. Status on New Haven? All military targets neutralized. Commander Seo reports the capital is secure. Civilian casualties minimal. The Veltharians are surrendering. Good. Begin Phase 2. Send battle groups to the other colonies on the list. Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated itself 12 times in the next week. Human ships appeared without warning over former human colonies. They struck with overwhelming force. They showed no mercy to military targets but carefully avoided civilian areas. It was a kind of warfare the aliens had never seen before. Brutal and efficient but strangely restrained. On New Haven, Governor Cho Minho arrived to establish a new administration. He walked through streets that his grandfather had walked 2 centuries before. The buildings were different now, built in Veltharian style, but the bones of the human city remained underneath. We'll need to start bringing settlers from Sol System, he told his staff. This is our world again. It's time to come home. The news spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Humanity had returned. The species that had been exiled and forgotten now commanded a fleet more powerful than anything the Council possessed. Fear rippled through alien populations. The Veltharians were the first to demand action. We must respond with force, their representative insisted at an emergency council meeting. We cannot let this aggression stand. 7 other species agreed. They pledged their fleets to a coalition force. 10,000 warships would be assembled to crush the human uprising. The council members congratulated themselves on their quick action. They remembered humans as refugees, beaten and humiliated. Surely a show of force would make them retreat again. They had no idea what humanity had become. Admiral Lee Jun received intelligence about the coalition fleet. He called his command staff together. They're gathering 10,000 ships. They think numbers will save them. We have 3,000, one of his officers pointed out. Those aren't good odds. They would be bad odds if we were fighting a traditional battle, Lee agreed. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do what humans do best. We're going to adapt, he explained his plan. The officers listened and slowly they began to smile. This was why humanity had survived. This was why they would win. Beijun and his squadron were assigned to a special strike force. They would hit the coalition supply lines while the main fleet engaged in what looked like a retreat. Make them chase us, Admiral Lee ordered. Make them think they're winning. Then we spring the trap. On Earth, Park Minji watched the news reports. She was ancient now, her body failing despite the medical technology keeping her alive, but her mind was clear. She saw the alien fleets gathering. She saw the fear in their broadcasts, and she smiled. They still don't understand, she said to her great-great-granddaughter who sat beside her bed. They think this is about territory. They think this is about colonies. They don't realize this is about pride, about justice, about proving that humanity cannot be caged. Will we win, grandmother? Win, child, we already won. We survived. We built something they said was impossible. The battles now? Those are just details. Commander Seohana prepared her soldiers for the next phase. They would be defending the reclaimed colonies against the coalition counterattack. They outnumber us, she told them honestly. But they've been at peace for 200 years. We've been training for war for 200 years. There's a difference, one of her soldiers raised a hand. Ma'am, what if they target civilians? Use them as shields? Seo's face hardened. Then we adapt. We find another way. We do not become the monsters they claimed we were. We fight clean even when they fight dirty. That's what separates us from them. The coalition fleet launched toward human territory, confident in their numbers. 10,000 ships against 3,000. They expected an easy victory. They expected the humans to panic and retreat. Instead, the Phoenix fleet met them head-on in the Crimson Nebula, a region of space filled with gas and dust that interfered with sensors. Admiral Lee Jun had chosen the battlefield carefully. All ships, he broadcast to his fleet. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. Remember who we are. The coalition fleet entered the nebula confidently. Their sensors immediately began malfunctioning. The gas and dust created false readings. They slowed down, trying to get a clear picture of where the human ships were. That's when the trap closed. The nebula exploded with light. Mines that the humans had planted weeks before detonated in a carefully orchestrated chain. Coalition ships collided with each other in the confusion. Their formation collapsed. The Phoenix fleet struck from all sides. Beijun's fighters quantum jumped inside the Coalition flagship's shields and tore it apart from within. Other human ships used the nebula's cover to get close before opening fire. The plasma weapons burned through hull after hull. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 4,000 Coalition ships were destroyed or crippled. The Phoenix fleet lost 37 ships. It was the worst military disaster in galactic history. The Coalition forces retreated in chaos. Their unity shattered. Species began withdrawing their ships, unwilling to sacrifice more for a fight that seemed unwinnable. In the council chambers, the crystalline leader watched the reports in silence. Around it, other species representatives argued and blamed each other. No one wanted to admit the truth. Humanity wasn't just stronger. They were better at war. 200 years of focused preparation had created something terrifying. The leader thought back to the exile. It had seemed so right at the time. Humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable. Better to push them away before they caused problems. Now it understood. They hadn't pushed humanity away. They had given humanity a reason to unite, a reason to focus all their energy and genius on one goal. The exile hadn't made humanity safe. It had made them unstoppable. On New Haven, Governor Cho Min-ho raised the human flag over the Capitol building. Colonists were already arriving from Sol System. Children played in parks that had been empty of human laughter for 2 centuries. Admiral Lee Jun stood in his ready room, looking at a picture of his great-great-grandfather. "We kept the promise," he said quietly. "We returned his fire, and we're not done burning yet." Marshal Quan Taman stood in the war room, studying the holographic map of the galaxy. Red markers showed Coalition territory. Blue markers showed reclaimed human worlds. The colors were spreading like competing viruses across the display. "They're regrouping," his intelligence officer reported. 15 species now. They're not making the same mistake twice. Better coordination, better tactics. Good, Quan said. His staff looked at him with surprise. He explained, "If they were stupid, this wouldn't prove anything. We need to beat them at their best to show the galaxy what we've become." The Coalition's second offensive was different from the first. They didn't rush in. They didn't underestimate humanity. They blockaded human colonies, cutting off supply lines. They hit manufacturing facilities. They studied human tactics and adapted. The war stopped being easy. Captain Ro Yunji commanded the dreadnought Unbroken Will, the largest ship in the Phoenix fleet. Her vessel was assigned to break the blockade around the colony of Hope's End. The Coalition had 300 ships surrounding the planet. Food was running short. Medicine was scarce. "They're using our own strategy against us," Ro told her crew. They learned. Now we teach them that humans can always learn faster. The Unbroken Will jumped into the system with 20 support vessels. They appeared directly above the Coalition formation, using the planet's gravity well to mask their approach. Ro didn't hesitate. Full power to forward weapons. Ram speed! The massive dreadnought plowed through the Coalition lines like a blade through silk. Its plasma cannons burned continuously, never stopping, never cooling. Enemy ships exploded on all sides. The support vessels followed in the Unbroken Will's wake, exploiting the gap she created. "Punch through to the planet," Ro ordered. "Get those supply ships down now." They made it, barely. The Unbroken Will's hull was scorched and pitted with hits, but it held. Behind them, the Coalition forces regrouped and came back. But by then, the colony had received its supplies. The blockade was broken. Ro looked at the damage reports and allowed herself a small smile. "Tell engineering they did good work. Now tell them to do it again. We have 5 more blockades to break." On the ground, Colonel Park Ji-ho led a special operations team deep into Coalition territory. Their mission was to destroy a weapons manufacturing facility that was producing advanced missiles. Intelligence said the facility was heavily guarded. Intelligence was right. Ji-ho and his team of 20 soldiers infiltrated through an old mine shaft. They moved in darkness, their armor's active camouflage making them nearly invisible. The facility loomed above them, a massive structure of metal and lights. "Remember," Ji-ho whispered over the comm, "in and out, fast and clean. We're not here to fight their whole army. Just blow the reactor and extract." They placed their charges carefully, shaped explosives that would collapse the reactor's containment field. It would create a meltdown that would destroy the facility without spreading radiation to the nearby civilian town. Humans fought hard, but they fought smart. The alarm went off while they were still inside. Someone had spotted them. Coalition soldiers poured into the facility. Jiho made a decision. Team 2, get to the extraction point. Team 1, with me. We buy them time. The firefight was brutal. Jiho's team held the main corridor while their teammates escaped. Energy bolts filled the air. 2 of his soldiers fell. Then 3. Then 5. Colonel, one of the survivors said, "We need to go now." Not yet. The charges need 2 more minutes, they held. When the timer reached 0, Jiho triggered the explosives remotely. Now we run. They made it out with seconds to spare. The facility exploded behind them, a column of fire reaching into the sky. But Jiho's team had started with 20 soldiers. Only 8 made it back. He sat in the extraction ship looking at the empty seats and wondered if victory was always supposed to hurt this much. Dr. An Seo-young worked in a field hospital behind the front lines. The wounded came in constantly. Burns from energy weapons, broken bones from combat-empowered armor, radiation sickness from damaged ship reactors. She worked 20-hour shifts, sleeping in brief moments when the flow of casualties slowed. "Doctor," a nurse called. Another transport just arrived. 40 wounded. Seo-young stood up, her back aching. "Triage them. Start with the ones we can save." She moved from bed to bed, making impossible decisions. This one would live. That one wouldn't. Save him. Let her go. The calculations of war written in blood and pain. At night, when she finally collapsed into sleep, she dreamed of peace. But in the morning, she woke to the sound of incoming wounded and went back to work. She kept a journal, recording everything she saw. Someday, she thought, people needed to know what this cost. Victory wasn't free. Freedom had a price. Every human she saved, every soldier she sent back to fight, carried the weight of their species' survival. "We're winning," a wounded soldier told her once. "Right, Doc? We're winning." Seo-young looked at his burned face, at the places where his armor had melted into his skin. "Yes," she said. "We're winning." The Coalition tried a desperate strategy. They sent a fleet directly toward Sol system, hoping to strike at Earth itself. If they could reach humanity's homeworld, they reasoned, the war would end quickly. Admiral Han Min-jae, now elderly but still sharp, watched them come. She sat in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, surrounded by tactical displays. "Let them get close," she ordered. "Let them think Earth is vulnerable." The Coalition fleet crossed into the Sol system, their sensors showing only light defenses. They pressed forward eagerly, thinking they had found humanity's weakness. They passed the orbit of Neptune, then Uranus, then Saturn. Now, Han ordered, the trap revealed itself. Hidden weapons platforms that had been disguised as asteroids powered up. Entire moons opened to reveal massive cannons. The automated defense grid that humanity had built during their 2 centuries of isolation activated all at once. The Coalition fleet found itself in a cage of fire. Every direction they turned, weapons tracked them. They tried to retreat, but quantum mines blocked their exit. In 30 minutes, the entire Coalition attack force was destroyed. Not a single ship escaped to report what they had seen. Han sat back in her chair, watching the tactical display clear. "Send a message to the Coalition command. Tell them that Earth is not defenseless. Tell them that we've had 200 years to prepare. Tell them to never come here again." The war continued, but the balance had shifted. Every Coalition attack was met with a human counterattack. Every Coalition victory came at a cost they couldn't afford. Species began to question whether the fight was worth it. Marshal Quan Taemin saw the change in the intelligence reports. "They're breaking," he told his staff. "The Coalition is falling apart. Species are starting to talk about individual peace deals." "What about the Veltharians?" someone asked. "They started this. They won't quit," Quan nodded. "Then we make them quit. Target their core systems. Show them what happens when you push humanity too far." The Phoenix fleet struck deep into Veltharian territory. Bei Jun, now a squadron commander, led the fighter screens. They hit military installations with surgical precision. Shipyards burned. Command centers crumbled. Supply depots exploded into light. The Veltharians refused to surrender. Their pride wouldn't allow it. They gathered what remained of their fleet for one final attack. They would strike at Earth, they decided. If they died, they would take humanity's homeworld with them. The attack was suicidal. The Veltharian fleet jumped directly into Sol system, weapons blazing. They expected some defenses. They found an apocalypse. The weapons grid that had destroyed the Coalition fleet earlier was just the beginning. Hidden platforms that Han had held in reserve now revealed themselves. The Veltharian fleet lasted 15 minutes. Every ship was destroyed. The crystalline leader who had called for humanity's exile died when her flagship exploded. Not a single Veltharian survived to return home. Marshal Quan broadcast a message to the remaining coalition forces. The war is over. Surrender now, or we will do to every one of your worlds what we just did to the Veltharians. We don't want to, but we will. The choice is yours. One by one, species began to surrender. They had seen what humanity could do when truly pushed. They had seen the fury of a species that had spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. The lesson was clear. Never cage a predator unless you're prepared for the day it breaks free. In her hospital, Dr. Seo Young treated the last of the wounded from the final battles. She was exhausted beyond measure. But when a soldier asked her if it was finally over, she smiled. Yes, she said. We won. What did we win? Seo Young thought about that. The right to exist. The right to be free. The right to stand among the stars as equals. That's what we won. On Earth, old Park Minji passed away in her sleep, a smile on her ancient face. She had lived long enough to see humanity return to the galaxy. Her last words were whispered to empty air. We kept our promise. The war was over. The exile was avenged. Now came the harder part, deciding what kind of empire humanity would build from the ashes. Marshal Quan Taemin's flagship approached the council chambers, the same station where humanity had been exiled 200 years before. This time he brought 300 warships with him, not as a threat but as a reminder. The galaxy needed to understand that everything had changed. The remaining council members waited in the Great Hall. 9 of the original 12 species remained. The other 3 had been defeated so completely that they no longer had governments to send representatives. The crystalline Veltharian seat sat empty, its previous occupant dead in the failed attack on Earth. Empress Li Nari entered the chamber first. She was young, only 35, but she carried herself like someone who had led armies. She was the great-great-great-granddaughter of Admiral Li Jun, who had led the first return to New Haven. The council members watched her with barely concealed fear. Behind her came Chancellor Yoon Ji-soo, the diplomat who would present humanity's terms. She carried a data tablet containing the Terran Accords, the document that would reshape the galaxy. We are here to discuss terms, Yoon said simply. No pleasantries, no diplomatic niceties. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a statement of fact. The remaining council leader, a being made of flowing liquid in a containment suit, spoke. You could destroy us. We know this. Why do you offer terms instead? Empress Li Nari answered. Because we are not you. You exiled us because you feared what we might become. You were right to fear us, but you were wrong about what we would do with power. We did not return to become monsters. We returned to become rulers. There is a difference. Chancellor Yoon activated the tablet. The Terran Accords appeared on displays throughout the chamber. She read the key points. The Galactic Council is dissolved, effective immediately. In its place, we establish the Galactic Parliament, where every species has a voice. All former human colonies are returned to human control, with full reparations paid by the species that occupied them. The Terran Empire holds veto power over any parliamentary decision. Species may choose to join the Empire or remain independent, but independent species receive no protection from us. All military fleets are reduced to defensive forces only. Any act of aggression will be met with immediate and overwhelming response. The council members looked at each other. These terms were harsh, but they were also fair. They had expected slavery or extinction. Instead, they were being offered a chance to continue existing, if they accepted humanity's leadership. What guarantee do we have, one alien asked, that you won't simply destroy us later when we're defenseless? Li Nari's expression hardened. You have the guarantee of human honor. We fight when we must. We defend what is ours. But we don't destroy for pleasure. You taught us that lesson when you tried to erase us from existence. We remember. We will not become you. One by one, species accepted the terms. Only the remaining Veltharian representative refused. We will never accept human rule, it said, its crystalline body flashing with defiance. You are barbaric conquerors. You prove our original decision was correct. Li Nari walked slowly toward the Veltharian. You cast us out because we were too violent, too unpredictable, too aggressive. You were right. We are violent when we need to be. We are unpredictable because we adapt. We are aggressive in defending what is ours. But you made one critical error in judgment. She leaned close to the alien. You assumed violence meant lack of control. You assumed aggression meant lack of mercy. You confused strength with cruelty. We brought fire to your galaxy, yes. But fire can destroy or fire can forge. Fire can burn or fire can light the way. We chose which kind of fire to be. You never gave us that choice before. The Veltharian was silent for a long moment. Finally it spoke. What if we refuse your terms and choose independence? Then you remain independent, Linari said. But understand this. We will watch. Any military buildup beyond defensive needs, any act of aggression, any threat to galactic peace, and we return. And next time we will show no mercy. The choice is yours. The Veltharian representative slowly bent in a gesture that might have been a bow. We accept the Terran Accords. With all species in agreement, the transformation began. On New Haven, Governor Cho Minho oversaw the return of millions of human settlers. They came in waves, families carrying belongings, children seeing their ancestral home for the first time. The Veltharian population that had lived there was relocated peacefully to other worlds. No one was killed. No one was enslaved. But the message was clear. These worlds belonged to humanity again. General Bei Jun, hero of countless battles, received a new assignment. Not as a warrior, but as a colonial administrator. He walked through the streets of New Haven's capital, seeing construction crews rebuilding in human style. Children played in parks. Markets opened. Life returning to normal. A young Veltharian child approached him, curious about the human in the military uniform. Are you going to hurt us? The child asked. Bei knelt down to the child's level. No, we're here to protect everyone now. Humans and aliens both. That's what the Empire means. The child's parent rushed over, apologizing. But Bei waved it away. It's fine. Better to ask questions than to live in fear. He realized then that war had been the easy part. Building peace would be harder. But that's what humans did. They adapted. They built. They moved forward. Ambassador Nam Hyesung established the first session of the Galactic Parliament on Earth. Representatives from every species gathered in a massive chamber built specifically for this purpose. For the first time in galactic history, small species had the same voice as large ones. Weak species could speak without fear of the strong. This is not perfect, Nam told the assembled delegates. There will be disagreements. There will be conflicts, but we will resolve them with words, not weapons, with votes, not violence. The Terran Empire guarantees the safety of every species that accepts our protection. We are the sword that guards the peace. You are the voices that guide civilization forward. Dr. An Seo-young, who had spent the war treating the wounded, now established medical academies throughout the Empire. She taught human medical technology to alien doctors. She shared techniques and knowledge freely. We fought for survival, she told her students, both human and alien. Now we work for prosperity. That's the empire I want to build. On Earth, Empress Li Nari stood at the memorial for Captain Li Taeyang, the man who had sworn humanity would return. His statue looked out toward the stars, one hand raised in an eternal vow. She placed flowers at the base and spoke quietly. Great-great-great-grandfather, we kept your promise. We returned not as refugees, but as an empire. An empire of flame that burned away the old order and built something new. I hope you're proud. I hope we honored your sacrifice. She paused, then added, and I hope we do better than the ones who came before. We have the power now. We must use it wisely. Chancellor Yoon Jisoo joined her at the memorial. The Parliament is requesting your presence. There's a dispute between two species over mining rights. Lee sighed. See, this is harder than war. In war, the answer is simple. In peace, everything is complicated. Would you prefer war? No, never. But I understand why leaders throughout history made the choices they did. Power is heavy. They walked back toward the palace together. Behind them, Earth turned beneath a peaceful sky. Above them, the Phoenix fleet maintained its silent watch. The ships that had brought fire and fury to the galaxy now stood as guardians of a new order. Years passed. The Terran Empire grew into something unexpected. Not a tyranny, but a framework. Humanity held military power, yes, but they shared economic and cultural power. Alien art flourished in human cities. Human technology spread to alien worlds. Children of different species studied together. played together, learned from each other. A celebration was planned for Unity Day, marking the anniversary of humanity's return to the galaxy. On New Haven, humans and Veltharians prepared the festivities together. The old animosities hadn't disappeared, but they had softened. Cooperation replaced conflict. Beijun, now a grandfather, watched the preparations with satisfaction. His granddaughter ran past playing with a Veltharian child. He smiled. This is what they had fought for. Not revenge, not domination, but the simple right to exist and grow without fear. Marshal Quan Taman, now retired and teaching at the military academy, gave a speech to graduating officers. His class was mixed, humans and aliens studying war together so they would never need to fight each other again. We were cast out, he told them. We returned as fire. But fire is not just destruction. Fire is warmth. Fire is light. Fire is the tool that forges new things from raw materials. We chose to be that kind of fire. Remember this when you face difficult choices. You have the power to destroy. Use it to protect instead. You have the strength to conquer. Use it to build instead. That is the lesson humanity learned in exile. That is the gift we give to the galaxy. On Earth, a monument was unveiled in the capital. It showed 3 figures, a human holding hands with 2 different aliens. All 3 looked up toward the stars together. The inscription read, "From exile to empire, from fire to peace, we rise together." Empress Li Nari stood before the monument during the dedication ceremony. The galaxy cast out humanity because they feared what we were. They were right to be afraid.